Excited to have everyone here. We're back with another making bots. We'll start in about 30 seconds to a minute or so with Pete and myself here. It's winter for Pete in Australia. It's the dead of summer in the United States for me, but we're both here excited to build another AI automation use case that we're seeing a lot more in the product recommendations bucket. So excited to jump in. If you are just rolling into the room, though, make sure to jump into the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We usually have people from all over the world, which always makes it fun. Different time zones. Some people are crazy and stay up till 10, 11, 12 at night to see it live. So we appreciate you. And Bart asked a good question. And for anyone else, we will record this session and send it out as soon as tomorrow. If you registered, you'll get it. It's still great though to be here live and see Pete think about it live, ask him some live questions, and really dive in with the rest of the chat. So happy everyone is here live as well. Serbia, Netherlands, Jerusalem, all over the world. Awesome. Well, we're a minute past the top of the hour. Won't keep everyone who showed up on time waiting anymore. We are super excited to welcome you to another Making Bots with the fabulous Peter Isaacs. Pete, thanks for being here.
All good. How y'all doing?
Well, I'm doing well. I think the chat's doing well. We're all excited to do a little bit of build for hotels.com. But before we get into that, I love to do a little bit of an audit of who's here, because I think building AI agents is a new frontier for a lot of folks, whether you're automating and augmenting existing customer support, or you're building net new use cases like product recommendations. I'd love to call out, hey, like we got some teams from all over the world, different industries, different sizes, thinking about this here today. Not to mention several on the AI agency front, where people are just getting into the industry for the first time. So excited to have everyone here, but definitely exciting to see these big teams thinking about product recommendations as well. A quick agenda. You guys have met Pete and myself, but we'll give a quick hello. We'll go over recommendation structures for this bot, the variables for hotels.com, the build framework that's super helpful, and then we'll get into the build. Pete will share a template for the build as well, so you can take the work and run versus rebuild from scratch. So don't worry about that, and we'll share that with the recording. But that said, let's think in the shoes of, let's say, your product manager, you're the VP of customer experience, you're looking for ways to drive more revenue, right? But you're getting pressure from the top to say, hey, I need to deploy some AI automation. I have this LLM budget. What do I do with it, right? Well, let's start with the user experience, these traditional problems that we're trying to solve. So in this case, a report from a couple of years back are looking at 40% of people are more likely to spend more than planned when they identify the shopping experience to be highly personalized. And shopping experience is broad. For this example, Pete, we're talking hotels.com, but shopping experiences can go across retail of any type. So today we're really focused on that personalization through shopping, and that personalization that's really only possible with deploying LLMs, NLU in this AI automation use case. So the last thing I want to call out is, as we're starting to work with a lot more teams, and Pete, gut check me here, I know you're doing a lot of builds with teams on Voiceflow today, we're really seeing there's two types of AI agent goals, right? Either you're reducing costs for, let's say, using a customer support use case or workflow there, or like we were talking about today, is we're boosting revenue, right? We're being proactive. We're on the offensive versus reactive. And these kind of agents are reducing friction. They're driving conversions. These are going to be like the product co-pilots that are doing ding, ding, ding product recommendations. They're cross-sell, upsell. They're actually lead capturing and routing. I think the last part I want to call out is this is going to drive things like basket size and cost per lead. That's how we're measuring this from that product or head of customer experience lens. So everything we're thinking about in the build portion, I want it to be grounded in this idea of, hey, we're doing this, and there's one or two goals. Let's keep it simple. And those example metrics for this case will probably be basket size and retention with the hotels.com use case. But Pete's going to show you how you do that. Pete, before I hop into your side, would you agree with these two buckets? Do you see anything else falling, or do most things typically fall here today?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think what we also see is generally customers start with one of these and then it starts blurring into the other. So you might see someone starting with reducing costs. Maybe they're an e-commerce site or something like that. They're wanting to do all the FAQs and those sorts of things and do that. And then they start moving into the increasing revenue kind of stream as well, looking at how they can increase basket sizes and all that. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's across different interfaces, not always chat. I think today we'll be building in a chat interface though, Pete, right? But like this can be across different custom interfaces too as we keep building. But that said, I will toss it over to you, Pete, to talk a little bit about the framework for how you're thinking about personalization here.
Yeah, for sure. So when we were kind of putting this together, I started to have a think about ways that you could, I guess, increase the likelihood that someone would do a booking with you if you were like a hotels.com or something like that. And the kind of six things, the things that you can. It's too early for me to count things on a screen. The six things that are five. Oh God. The things that I saw of how you could, kind of increase basket size and make sure that people could get all the way through were like tailored recommendations. So use what you know about the user to give them tailored recommendations. If you know that a user likes certain types of hotels or they generally spend a certain amount, like give them recommendations back based on that. Social connections. So, thinking about, if you were a hotel company and a company like hotels.com and, you could add some sort of social proof to your recommendations. So especially if you could think about it like, okay, maybe you could have friends or something like that on the platform, or maybe you're connecting social accounts and those sorts of things. How could you leverage those connections so that you could give recommendations based off of friends? Then obviously giving broader social proof, personalized pricing, and that sort of thing. So, if the history of the user, maybe you can start giving them personalized pricing so that you could get them over the line quicker and that sort of thing. And then, contextual recommendations. If you know that the person is traveling because of business, show them places that would make the most sense for business. Now, in today's one, basically, we're going to do tailored recommendations based on what we know about the user. And we're also going to show how you could leverage sort of social connections to do that sort of thing. So the way that I've thought about this at a high level of how you could kind of get this all to work is you would start in like, do we know, the hotel and the city basically in this bookings flow? So how, like these are the kind of the two main things, what is the hotel and where is it? And if we don't know those things, we're going to ask for the city and hotel, and we're going to use recommendations where appropriate to suggest the hotel and or city. Then if we get those things, we want to know, do we know a date range? So we're going to ask for those date ranges. And basically what I'm going to show you in this flow is how you can use large language models to capture this information in a way that's really effortless so that a customer can say, like, I want to go somewhere today and leave on Friday or leave on Saturday, and those sorts of things, which are traditionally hard with AI agents. All right, so first of all, what I'm going to do is let's stop sharing this one, and I'm going to jump in and share my screen. So give me 2 seconds while I
Yeah, Pete, I'll
get this all going.
one thing right here while you get that up. I think it's interesting to call out like product recommendations is not like intuitively a new concept. I think what we've seen with like traditional chatbots per se, right? There were questions around like, what's the difference between a chatbot and an agent, right? Like realistically, it's the quality and the personalization and the level in which you can generate responses. The idea of like randomizing hotels, right, in a carousel is not new. It's the level of quality and like the personalization that takes a connection to your CRM, that takes a connection to your knowledge base, that takes an ability to like process SKUs, right? So like all of this is based on the data, which I know you're gonna show us, but then obviously manifesting in a few thought bubbles. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes that really makes it sing.
Exactly. So to give this kind of a bit more life, to show you how this all sort of works, I decided to actually put this into onto the hotels.com website just to make it look a bit more nice. And at the moment, I am having mouse troubles. It keeps disconnecting. So excuse me while I try to fix that. All right, so we're going to start. Welcome to bookings.com. How can I help? And I'm going to say I want to go to London. I need to get a hotel tonight. So this is like something like this would generally be very hard for an agent to pick up. And hopefully this gets into the bookings flow. And it says, got it. So you're looking to book a hotel in London for tonight. Since your friends had a great experience at the Savoy, would you like me to check the availability for their July 17th, 2024? So we'll say yes. And this is working well. So we'll go, yeah, that sounds great. I think I need to leave. Actually, we'll just do that and we'll see how it goes from there. Next, it should ask me, I'm hoping for an ending date. Well, all right, checking availability, just a moment while all right, it hasn't worked exactly as planned. Let me try this again from the start. Sorry about that. It's jumped a few steps. Joys of live demos. All right, I need to go to London. Got to get there tonight.
Well, while that loads to Pete, someone's asking about the friends having a good experience, and that's not a hallucination. That's not a hallucination. And Pete will actually show you how he went in and actually queried the friends past order status, right? So it'd be like, let's say you become a friend on Airbnb or hotels.com with someone else. We're actually using that data to inform that, okay, great, 5 of the people you've chatted with before or connected to have that same, or have stated the Savoy and rated it X, right? All that data is in the CRM.
Yeah. And so what I think has been happening here is that I was playing with this earlier and it's taking the memory of something which has happened before, and it's why it's skipping around. So I don't think I made it so that you could, I think it was stealing the memory from past conversations and I wasn't wiping that. So we can try that again.
Great.
Oh no, sorry, this is the wrong one. This isn't even going to work. Give me 2 secs.
No problem. And what Pete's doing here, for anyone's curious, he's going into the project he's built in Voiceflow and then grabbing the web chat widget. You can use our self-hosted web chat and personalize it, or you can use our dialogue API to actually like deploy that to a custom interface, right? Your own web chat interface or voice or like an embedded help center, for example. All of that's possible. But so he's just refreshing the project here and then deploying it on the site via the inspect snippet here.
Yeah, so here we go. Here we go. Okay. Whoa, I've got 2 deployed on there, but that's all good. All right, let's try that again. Okay, I am going to London. Need to get there tonight. Sweet. Sounds like you're in for an exciting trip to London. Based on your past trips, you stayed at you previously stayed at the Mayfair Hotel and had a wonderful experience. You mentioned it was a luxurious hotel with top-notch service, and I could go. I actually want to try somewhere different. Where did my friends stay? So I think what happened before was it was actually pulling from my last conversation that I had with it, and I'd already picked the Savoy in the last one. So sure, I can help with that one. One of your friends recently stayed at the Savoy in London and had a fantastic experience. They mentioned that the hotel had an elegant atmosphere, exceptional service, and the prime location by the River Thames. They particularly enjoyed the beautiful views and luxurious rooms. Would you like to book the Savoy for your stay? And I can go, yes, that sounds great. Okay. all seeming to work this time. Unfortunately, I didn't make a sacrifice to the demo gods this morning, so I think that's what stuffed me up. So fantastic choice. The Savoy is an excellent hotel with a rich history. Just to confirm, you're planning to just start your trip today, July 17th, 2024. And when were you thinking of ending? I'll go, I need to come back on Friday. Now, it's worth noting the dates that I'm pulling based on Eastern Standard Time. So while it says July 18 for me, I am in the future. It is obviously getting the US date. So excellent choice. The Savoy in London is a fantastic place to stay, and the summer months are a wonderful time to visit. The weather is usually warm and sunny, perfect for exploring the cities. I've confirmed your travel dates as July 17th, 2024 to July 19th, 2024. So as you can see, I've said today and Friday, and it's worked out what the dates should be. We've found some available rooms for your stay at the Savoy. The pictures of the rooms are below in the carousel below. Would you like to make a booking? If so, select the make a booking button below. So I've just pulled in some images here, and we can go make a booking. So your hotel room at the Savoy has been booked, yada, yada, yada. And now it's asking if there's any other things that it can help with, perhaps recommendations, activities, dining options, and those sorts of things. Now, one thing which I'll show you pretty quickly, so we'll just close that one down. What you can see here is this has actually pushed a booking into Airtable. So we've got John Doe, London, start date, end date, and it's booked. So that's kind of cool. And now let's get into the actual build itself, and we can go through how it all works. Now, apologies, as I said, my mouse has just decided to stop working. So it may be a bit herky-jerky at points. Okay, so let's get into it. So the welcome message. So basically, I know someone before was asking, hey, it said that thing about the Savoy. Why did it say that? That kind of seems weird. So what I'm actually doing at the very start of this is I've created this JavaScript to kind of inject context to the user. So what we're basically doing is imagining that the user is logged in. We've pulled this information from an API, and we have things like the user's name, likes, dislikes, and we're assigning them to different variables. We have past trips, so they've been to Lisbon, they've been to London, and they went to the Mayfair Hotel. As you saw before, we got recommended the Mayfair because they stayed at it before. And they've also been to Melbourne, and they stayed at the Langham. Friends recommendations, we can see Sarah stayed at Pestana in Lisbon. Michael Thompson stayed at the Savoy in London, and Emily stayed at QT. And then we've got a couple of ones in Paris as well. We also have friends recommendations for places to eat in all of those areas. So what you could start to do is go, when people are asking, where should I go eat, do those sorts of things to give that kind of real concierge kind of vibe. You could start pulling from like, where have you been before? What sort of things do you like? And then also start bringing that social proof in and doing all that. Okay, so next up, we've got the book a hotel. So this is the flow that we're going to use. And I am going to go through, show you how this all works. But at the same time, what we'll do is we'll actually drop some prompts in there. So the first thing that we do in this build is we're actually gathering the city and the hotel. So I'm going to grab this prompt here, and we're going to put it here. And I'm going to explain how this prompt all works. So this first prompt, we have two here. So we've got this one capturing the city, and then we have this prompt capturing the hotel name. So really this prompt is the first one, and they're actually very similar prompts. So I'm just going to go over one of them. And actually what I will just say as an aside, a lot of these prompts I've actually based off our LLM intent classification prompt. The reason for that is that prompt is really good at classifying things. And because we the way that this works is we're kind of classifying what the customer is trying to do or trying to extract certain things from the history of the conversation. That prompt actually acted as a really good template of how to build this out. So that's something that I'd always recommend, actually. If you can find if you can find templates of prompts that work well for a certain use case, generally you find that you can start to tweak them for slightly different use cases, and they'll work well as well. So in this prompt, it kind of acts like a set of instructions for the agent to listen to any for any cities or states, and whether they're brought up by the user or the agent itself. So you can see at the start, we've got this "you are a city and state extraction system. Correctness is a life or death situation." So this first part of the prompt really sets the role and emphasizes the critical importance of what we're trying to do. And it's also probably the reason that the machines will come for me first when they do become sentient. So next, we define the main task. So this, given a conversation history between the user and agent, your task is to extract the city and state mentioned by either the user or agent. Then we have a whole bit of logic here, which, to make this easier to see, I'll kind of separate it like that. So if the user confirms a city mentioned by the agent, consider it as the user's intended city. If no city is found, respond with a 0. If a city is found but no state is mentioned, provide only the city name. Next, we have some examples to show the LLM how to capture this. I forgot that this part here is also basically saying if the city entity is kind of already filled, like, you don't need to do anything. But next up, we have some examples. So LLMs act as like the way they work is next token prediction. So if you can give examples to show the LLM the kind of output that you're expecting, then you're more likely to get the output that you want. So here we have, I want to visit Paris. I'm planning to visit a trip to New York City. I'd love to explore Seattle, Washington. The weather is nice today, so obviously that is a 0. And then we've got ones of kind of which are a bit more history. So the Savoy is a fantastic hotel in London. Would you like me to check the availability for your trip? Yes, that sounds great. And then the output is London. Then we have the final set of instructions. So now take a deep breath and extract the city and state from the conversation history. We then show the conversation history here. And then again, we're doing next word prediction here. So we've showed this kind of UA, so user agent, and we're trying to show exactly what this should look like. So we're saying, okay, A, now what would you predict after that point? This hotel prompt, it's basically the same sort of thing, but it's extracting the hotel. Okay, so that's how that part works. Then what you also saw before was we said the London part, and we have a prompt which is recommending hotels. And this one's doing quite a lot of different things. Now, also, I can't currently see the screen. So if anyone has any questions or anything like that, Sam, feel free to jump in and ask away.
Yeah, I'll interrupt you. Otherwise, just as a reminder to, as we're about halfway, if you do have questions, drop them in the chat. If it's something that makes sense for Pete to answer live, I can interrupt him. Otherwise, we'll do a flyby Q&A on the canvas at the end too.
Sounds good. Okay, so again, this prompt, again, where this is where we start to play that role of a friendly kind of hotel concierge. And this prompt, its job is really to analyze the conversation and then work out the best question to answer. So we'll break it down as to what happens. So the first part of the prompt is you are a friendly and helpful hotel recommendations chatbot for hotels.com. Your task is to provide personalized hotel suggestions based on the user's preferences, past trips, friends' recommendations, and conversation history. Engage in a natural conversational manner while providing the most relevant information. And then what we do is we provide all the information. Now, this is a lot of information. We're giving the whole conversation history. We're giving the city the user wants to stay. We're then giving them some JSON objects that include information about the user, past trips, friends, hotel recommendations. And then we jump in and we are doing all the logic part. So now analyze the conversation and provide a helpful response based on the following guidelines. So we're saying if the user asks about their own past stays in a specific city, match it up to this. If the user asks about their friend stays in a specific city, ask about this. If the user's query doesn't match any of these patterns, do this. And you can see this is quite a lengthy prompt. And then we have this kind of remember section, which is really about kind of guiding the output into like what we want. So we're saying to use the city name in the output. We're saying to keep things conversational and engaging. We're telling it to show enthusiasm, stay natural and focused on the user's needs. We're telling it to keep the responses brief and to try get bookings kind of across the line. And then also we have a little output indicator saying, don't mention any of the tags. You know, I'm sure as lots of you have experienced when you are creating LLM prompts and that sort of thing, you might just get some random things in there where the LLM says based off these tags or based off this or whatever. So basically I'm just trying to say, hey, don't do that. And then finally, you know, we have that colon where we're saying, you know, do your next word prediction from here. The prompt settings, all of these, I should say, we're pretty much using GPT-4o in most of these prompts, and we're using a temperature of about 0.25. So the reason that we're using this temperature, it's really about trying to give the LLM like a bit of creativity. So for people who don't know how the temperature thing works, basically, you know, this is next word token prediction. If the more you increase the temperature, the more it randomizes, the more it doesn't give the, like, I guess the most deterministic answer. So if you do 0, it's going to give the most likely prediction. And then as you increase it along all the way up to, I think goes, I can't remember actually what it goes to, but the more you increase it, it will make it a little bit more random in its response. It won't necessarily go for the most likely token prediction. Okay, cool. So we have that one in. And then so we're extracting the hotel and the city. This part we're asking for the hotel and or the city. And then the next part, which is super crucial, which we showed before, was extracting the date. Okay, so this prompt, again, it's all very similar. These are all kind of prompts which are classifying things. So we have you are a date classification system. Your task is to analyze the entire conversation history to determine whether it contains a specific date, a relative date, a week without a specific day, a date range, or no date information at all. Correctness is crucial. In this one, I didn't tell them that I would die if they didn't give me the right one. We're passing the current user date over, which we are setting over here in a little bit of JavaScript. And then we are providing the extracted date, and we're giving a little bit of information to the LLM about how to format it and all that sort of thing. And then we have these like this stuff here basically saying, hey, this is how you classify it. So when the user history contains a specific date of the booking, e.g. 21st of June 2024, output specific date along with the date. When the conversation history contains a relative date, like next Thursday, write relative date, and so on and so forth. So then once we've done all of this and we've got all the examples, so this one just goes for a really long time. I remember this prompt taking me ages and ages to work on, but it works pretty well. Then we're going to, then here we're basically, because we're looking for a date range, we're looking for the September 21st to September 30th type date. If we don't extract that, then we have a prompt where we're asking for the user date. Now, once we get that, we have another prompt, which is basically converting the dates that we're extracting into something that is machine readable. So we're converting the start date and the end date into ISO format. We're then doing a little function here where we are checking that Airtable to make sure that we have an available room. So what we can see here is we've got hotels. The Savoy had one spot there, and that's why we were able to get it in there. And then once we've successfully got that, I didn't design out the no record or the error there, but once we do that, once we find the hotel, we have another prompt, and this one is really all about getting it to frame the response. So saying, it's an excellent choice. Hotel in City is a fantastic place to stay. Kind of talking about like the weather and those sorts of things to kind of give more, trying to think of the words, to kind of like, again, make sure that the customer feels comfortable and excited about their trip and those sorts of things. If it's winter, it'll say stuff about that, and maybe it might say something like pack some warm clothes and those sorts of things. And then finally, we have that function again where we were showing that dynamic carousel where I was pulling some info again from this Airtable where we had images. And again, I've only got the Savoy in here. Obviously, if you were wanting to do something like this, you would have a database and you would pull them for every hotel, and you would have all that sort of stuff there. We then have a very kind of standard sort of buttons here where we're just saying, hey, do you want to make a booking or not? And if they do, then we are confirming that booking and we're updating that row on Airtable again, which was over here. So you can see, I know, was it that one? There we go. John Doe, London. They're staying at then.
Yeah, and Pete, just to reiterate, there were a few questions about like, hey, how are you actually pulling this data, or where's this data from, right? Like, so just to reiterate, we're obviously using Airtable as a dummy database in this capacity to power this agent. Like many of the teams we're working with, across the travel and tourism industry, they're using Salesforce, they have Zendesk, they have some robust CRM with all of this data in it, whether it's the SKU data, the lodging data, the past travel data, hey, like John Doe is friends with Peter Isaacs, right? Like all of that data would then be fed into here via an integration like Pete is showing, and then fed as variables for the LLM to use within the responses. So yes, rarely are teams just using an Airtable to do this. It's oftentimes obviously a robust CRM that has this data and then activated in this AI agent capacity.
Exactly. And in this case, what we're doing as well is we are using this JavaScript step at the start of the agent, where we are enforcing some variables. So past trips here, we're turning this into a string, and we're using that to show to the LLM when we're saying, okay, these are the places that you've stayed before. Recommend a place based on that. Similarly, with the friends ones, we have them all here as well. So the friends recommendations. So this is setting the friends hotel recommendations variable to this string of to this string basically, and we're doing that for all those different variables. So we're kind of simulating what it would be like if you could pull that stuff from a database, so that we could then use that in the prompts to create really dynamic responses.
Amazing.
And that's basically it. That's how the whole thing is working.
Yeah, awesome. First off, thank you for the flyby. I love starting with the demo so people can kind of see what people are, see what's possible, and then working the way through each block. As a reminder, we'll share this template. Now, obviously, you'll have to swap in your own CRM or dummy data for this to work. But for the most part, the prompts are the tough work here that Pete's refined. So taking those prompts and maybe tweaking them slightly for your own use case if you need. But those prompts are very powerful and kind of the good copy and paste jump off for this agent. Pete, you ready to answer some questions?
Sounds good.
Awesome. The first one here is, hold on 1 second. Let's do here. Winston was asking, from an answering perspective, do you find that passing VF memory is better than using prompt plus memory to pull the conversation history?
To be honest, I haven't tested them as a comparison. I will be completely honest that I've been just using VF memory in this prompt because it's just easier to to do. It's a variable that exists already there. So I'm just using that one.
Awesome. Subu asked, is it fair to say that there's one prompt for each intent? You kind of showed it like that, where you pulled up the component of the prompt. But is that kind of how you're thinking about it with like master prompts per intent?
I would say, well, I guess the intent here is make a booking. And depending on the state of the conversation, we're giving different prompts. And we're using things like these classifiers here to determine what we're going to do next. So for instance, if I said, I will sacrifice a child to the demo gods, I'll just go, I want to book a hotel. Oh, I want to book a night at the Savoy in London starting today and ending on Friday. In theory, because we have all these classifiers that are happening throughout it, this should enable you to jump all the way to the end. So yeah, it's jumped right to the end. We've got excellent choice. London is a fantastic place to stay, and the summer months are a wonderful time to visit, blah, 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 blah. So what we're kind of doing is using these kind of prompts that sit across the conversation where we are classifying everything that's happening. And then depending on that classification, we are then delivering responses and that sort of thing. So here what happened is we jumped into that one. We've got the hotel in the city. We've said we've got the date from the history of the conversation. We've extracted the dates. We've then gone to a function which has gone, do we have an actual hotel that we can book? And then we go here and we present that to the user and then ask them to make the final booking. So yeah, that's kind of how that's all working.
Yeah, it's a good call out. It's not like you're forcing the product recommendation path for everyone, right? Like if they know they want to book, let's use that. Like that's a good example for like maybe you're augmenting existing customer support. You're already augmenting FAQs or automating, excuse me, and you add this recommendation flow. You don't need to force everyone through recommendations, right? If they know where they want to stay, it's a support agent as much as it is a recommendations at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I had a few questions just now. I'll pull up one of them about costs and prompting and the different costs of the different prompts. You said you used GPT-4o, obviously latest, greatest, very powerful. How do you think about prompt chaining versus massive prompts like this for quality?
Yeah, look, I generally find that prompt chaining enables you to make cheaper agents because you're able to divide up tasks to the correct model. Now, in this instance, we are using GPT-4o across everything. However, considering we now have the full, Claude family and stuff like that, you could maybe start to go, okay, these prompts here where we need to do a bit more reasoning and that sort of thing, like we're pulling out dates and that sort of stuff. Maybe you could pull them to Sonnet 3.5, and maybe these response ones could be done with Haiku or something like that. So you're starting to use more powerful prompts where you need to, and then you're using more powerful LLMs where you need to, and you're for the simple responses and stuff like that, you're using a cheaper model. And that doing that sort of thing will start to also mean that you start getting better speed and that sort of thing. I did a video yesterday, which I think I assume it's on YouTube. But we went through like this kind of thing with the Claude models where we were able to actually reduce the token cost of a prompt chain down by 60%, I think, and we were able to increase the speed by 66% by using different models at different points and that sort of thing. So,
and that's like a main reason that I think a lot of the teams are that we work with, or they want and they need that level of control to balance quality and cost, right? And you can't do this if you can't control the prompt, right? Like it's just impossible. So yeah, definitely that's a really good call out. It's like you don't have to use the long form prompt, and maybe your team prefers to prompt chain everything so that the end-to-end testing is a little more seamless too, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think the other thing is, bots where it's just one mega prompt as well. When you start feeding in history and stuff like that, what you'll also find is those sorts of bots are more prone to things like prompt injection and those sorts of things. Whereas what's happening here is because we are constantly breaking things down, maybe we're not always using memory, maybe we are in other places, maybe we're actually transforming what the user has said into something different so that we can, do a knowledge base lookup or something like that. What you start to see is that prompt injection and those sorts of things become a lot harder for someone to do. I'm not saying that someone couldn't, because I honestly don't know, but yeah. That's the other advantage of doing a chain of prompts.
Awesome. I'll call this out. Maybe I can kind of answer this with you. Jose, just wondering about like the data privacy around pulling in the friend recommendations, which is interesting. A few people were asking like, what if I pulled from social media, right? Or like, I know these many people have been here. I think for the concept of this bot, especially for like a host, hotels.com, booking.com, I think a lot about like Airbnb. They have so much data. Like, okay, great. We all just went to London together. We all know where Pete stayed, and Pete's my friend on Airbnb, right? So like that data is already like authenticated, approved, and shared within the CRM, and you're opting into that for that app. I think that's my mindset here, Pete. Are you thinking about it differently, or like any other regulations that you thought about?
Yeah, I mean, the way I always look at it is if you don't want that sort of data shared, opt out. And if you don't opt out, then there is always that chance. As long as what you were doing within your agent is GDPR, like it is like at the standard of what the regulation requires, then I don't think there are any real problems with that. But yeah, as long as you are not presenting data that is data from people who have opted out of all these sorts of things and that sort of thing. That
But most teams have that data already filtered within the CRM as far as like what's usable, right? So I think that's
exactly.
here, yeah. We are wrapping up a few of the questions here. I want to share maybe one more that this is from Lena on the Voiceflow team, but also just leveled up from the registration. We had a few good questions on the sign up flow. Pete, this is a little bit of top line, but it's a good question especially for people who are like, what's the difference between what you just built and like maybe the dialogue flow or Watson bot that I've had on my site forever? Like, how do you're working with a lot of teams to kind of augment or replace completely those old school bots, but like, how do you see the difference? How are you seeing the change here?
Yeah, I think the kind of AI agent mindset is about creating fairly flexible frameworks that conversations can happen within. Your chatbots are generally, you'll have a whole heap of pre-written FAQs, and those are the things that you can answer, and you have intents trained on those things. Whereas like an agent might have a knowledge base, you might design a framework for the agent to answer questions from that knowledge base, but you don't actually have any of those responses pre-written or anything like that. So you're able to kind of do everything on the fly. So, maybe someone comes in, they're swearing about, not being able to make a bank transfer or something like that. You're able to respond empathetically to them and tell them how to do that. Or indeed, if you can do a bank transfer, you can respond empathetically and help them with the bank transfer or something like that. So I guess agents are just it's a much more flexible way of doing things. I think that the old kind of way as well, using your IBMs, dialogue flows, etc., and I've got a lot of experience working on both of them actually, is the size of a team that you require in order to put out something that's really high quality. You know, the place that I was working before Voiceflow, we had a team of, I think, 15, 16 people, including like 10 devs, two designers, like 3 trainers, all those sorts of things across a few different bots. With something like this, because you're able to, you know, utilize the knowledge base and those sorts of things, you don't need to have as many people, because the work required, you can be like, you know, if you're seeing that something is not being answered correctly, it's less of a, okay, why did this not match this intent? How do I disentangle this training? It's going, okay, like this thing didn't answer the thing correctly because we don't have the knowledge base correctly. Like we don't have that information correctly in the knowledge base. Let's rewrite that part of the document that we were getting, and then kind of going from there.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I also think like it's, you know, this level of like full service yet personal yet flexible type of experience would not be possible with traditional like NLU, even you know, general OpenAI assistant, right? Like you might be able to answer the general FAQs, but there is business logic, user logic, and data. There's a payments flow. There's recommendations that are using logic from past memory, right? So like this is the level of like true business, you know, enterprise level agentic experience that I think that a lot of folks are looking towards. Now, again, if you haven't started before and you haven't done any of this, and even the poll, right? A lot of people are starting with support. That's a great place to start. But then as you scale up and think about like, okay, what's the next flow? What's the next intent? What's possible? That, you know, we think about it like crawl, walk, run. You know, this goes into that walk kind of run status, right? Where you're actually proactively offering advice and then actually, you know, completing actions for users. So just to give my point of view. Awesome. One bonus one here, Pete, I'll share, and then we'll probably wrap up. Someone was just asking about, I think like handling, I guess, prompt injections per se, or like people's pivoting course mid context. How does this bot handle that? Like you showed it jumping from 1 to 100 here, right? But like, yep, instead of like very flow based bots like we're talking about, how is this handling from a framework perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So say the user said, I want to cancel a hotel. We would have an intent that would be cancel hotel, and we would allow it to be accessed from this workflow, so that should a user say something that we didn't expect, or we matched their intent incorrectly, they would be able to jump from that and into that. Similarly, you know, say we already had they said, you know, say they wanted to cancel a night at the Savoy or something like that, but we'd actually got into, you know, booking a night at the Savoy, and they said cancel intent. We would have all these things at the start of that flow, so that it would go, okay, we've already got the city and the hotel from this, and then we would go, do you have a hotel booked at the Savoy? If you did, then we would go along and cancel it like that. So you start to kind of build out these kind of flexible frameworks that kind of allow you to jump from one workflow to the next.
Yeah, it's flexible framework grounded in the business logic that you need to be able to control, right? And like you can't just let anyone go and cancel for someone else, right? Or like, and like I know there's a good conversation in the chat about just like general you know, prompting or OpenAI assistance. Like that's great for the, you know, maybe the FAQs or the first conversation, but when you want to layer business logic and like Pete's saying, not have a very low chance of anything derailing course, that's that level of control that I think Pete's showing here.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, we are at about time here. Went rip through a bunch of questions, so thank you, Pete, for letting us steal a bunch of your time at the end from the Q&A. Appreciate all the thoughts and questions in the chat. If we didn't get to it, we have a list of all the questions, and we'll follow up in the email or on LinkedIn, etc. As Lena mentioned in the chat, we'll send this out as well as the template sometime tomorrow. So check your emails. And yeah, we're excited to see what people keep building. Let us know questions on social or DM myself or Pete. Always here to help and see what you're building. Yeah, and then we'll be back next month with another Making Bots. And also, if you have not seen, Lena will drop a link in the chat where we're doing a workshop with Dennis in a little bit, in a couple weeks. The skills that teams are building for AI, or the skills that teams need to work with generative AI. So excited to keep the AI Blueprint series rolling as well. You can sign up for that if you're curious on that front. But more than anything, Pete, thank you for your time as always, and for showing us a pretty sick build here.
No problems. Catch you later. Bye.
Awesome. Have a good day, all.